Hey everyone, I just wrapped up a conversation with Saurabh Mukherjea and Salil from Marcellus Investment. It was a very interesting, insightful conversation for me. I learned a lot of things from this conversation, especially around whether or not you should be considering too much macros, how to value or judge the PE of a certain stock, and ton of different things that you will figure out from listening to this conversation. I have time-stamped it. Please go and watch the relevant sections that you find to be useful. And also a very quick note that these are not investment advices. This is a free-flowing conversation. This was not even a teaching class per se. Let me know what you think about it and enjoy this conversation. Hi everyone, welcome to today's special chat. And I'm with Saurabh Mukherjea and Salil from Marcellus. I'll hand over the mic to them to introduce themselves. But usse pehle, there is something really special, which I was just showing Saurabh before the chat started. So this is Saurabh's book, Diamond in the Dust. And you will see this to be a very special copy because of the reason that my 2-year-old son has drawn and made it very special by painting things on it. Right. So next time I meet Saurabh, right, I'll get his sign on this book. Right. So I just wanted to show Saurabh.
Really, he's got very good taste, Akshat. He's got very good taste. Salil and I really appreciate that a 2-year-old is now reading Diamond in the Dust.
Wonderful. I will start teaching him finance. अगर आपने मेरे कुछ videos भी देखे हो, right? So a lot of audiences keep asking us to bring 2 people on my channel. So one is my son and one is Saurabh Mukherjea. Right. So they keep on asking me.
Very soon we won't be required anymore. Son will take our place.
So, thank you. That's very kind. And Saurabh, over to you. अगर आप थोड़ा सा एक बहुत ही quick introduction दे दें, then I will introduce the topic for today.
So look, I work in Marcellus Investment Managers. We've been running this company now for 3.5-4 saal. We look after the savings of 10,000 Indian families plus some universities in the Western world. And as Akshat pointed out, every other year, Salil, myself, my colleagues, we try to publish a book every other year. And we enjoy discussing finance and investing because honestly, this is all we know. आधा दिन रीडिंग में चला जाता है, बाकी आधा दिन बातें करने में चला जाता है. That's how we spend our lives.
All right. So Salil, very quick introduction about you.
Right. So I've been with Marcellus since early days. I've known Saurabh before that, and when he started this, I thought it's a good opportunity maybe to try and get a chance to work with him. And like Saurabh was saying, same thing. We know very little apart from investing in equities. So it's always a pleasure to talk to somebody who's willing to listen. So thanks for inviting us.
Thank you. Most welcome. And Saurabh, a lot of the times or majority of the times people chat with you regarding investments, but a lot of our audiences are fairly young, right? In 20s, in early 30s. And they always ask me that whenever you are inviting a guest, ask something around career advice. So today we'll have like Saurabh speak a little bit about career advice in 1 minute, and then we will start the core of the chat.
So all I can say is the early part of my 20s was spent trying to figure out how quickly can I make money. Then I realized around 26, 27 that it's far more interesting to live life by pursuing unique experiences. So 27, I quit my job in Accenture where I was a management consultant. And उसके बाद कभी sort of job किया नहीं है. Every decision in life has been driven by मजा किस में सबसे ज़्यादा आएगा, learning किस में सबसे ज़्यादा मिलेगी, कितनी किताबें पढ़ सकते हैं हफ्ते में, कितनी किताबें लिख सकते हैं, कितने देश देख सकते हैं, कितने जगह घूम सकते हैं. So the quicker in life you realize that pursuing money is an utter waste of time. The more fun you have, and ironically, our life is work in progress. So, 20 saal baad, I'll give you the definitive verdict. The less you run after money, the more money runs after you.
Wonderful philosophy. So, sir, इसी को build करते हैं अपन, right? So, जैसे Marcellus आपने start किया. So, what is the psychology of money while managing funds at Marcellus? अगर आप मिल के answer दे दें.
So, let me actually first tell you how we started. Salil joining us is a good story. So, when I quit my previous job. Right. So at that time, my wife and I counted whatever little savings we had. We figured कि was बच्चों को यूनिवर्सिटी भेजने के भी शायद पैसे ना हो, तो थोड़ा खर्चा वर्चा कट डाउन किया. And my thinking was शायद a few friends, family शायद कुछ पैसे दें, शायद 100-200 करोड़ मैनेज कर लें. I told my colleagues in my previous job 100-200 करोड़ मैनेज कर लें तो family चल जाएगी यार, किताब पढ़ने का कैश फ्लो आ जाएगा. Right. So it was started with that point of view that the full focus will be जितना reading का time हो, जितना writing का time हो, and interesting work करना है, interesting investing करनी है. it's because people like Salil voluntarily reached out and said, "हमको भी यही करना है." That we first built the team. Now, जब team बनी भी, I remember our first office we had 4 desks. So हमने सोचा यही काफी रहेगा, 4 डेस्क ही काफी रहेंगे. This was as recently as November 2018. Right, यही काफी रहेगा, 4 डेस्क में काफी होगा. And I showed Salil my business plan कि देखो ये business plan maximum 10 लोग होंगे और अगर 500-600 करोड़ मैनेज कर लिए तो बहुत होगा. Right, that in a way will be nirvana in life. Right, that's our degree of forecasting about our own business. Right, and here we are. 3 years later, 3.5 years later, 100 people in the firm. Ironically, because of COVID, we get to meet them sporadically. 100 people in the firm, and best part of 13,000 crores of assets under our care. And a set of changes have taken place in the country. Changes are taking place in the country, way more powerful than us, than we could imagine. I don't think in a million years, Akshat, I don't think Salil and I 3 years ago thought that celebrity YouTubers like you would be reaching out to us. हमारा सोचता है YouTube में तो जो गाने गाते हैं, नाचते हैं, उनके बारे में लोगों को जानना है. हम जैसे बोरिंग लोगों के बारे में किसको जानना है? So life takes you in unexpected directions, and as long as you have a open mindset to doing interesting work, you end up having fun and working with good people like Salil.
Thanks. That's wonderful. That's a great story to hear. So as we were discussing, and as you can see, all of us watching this video, that Saurabh is wearing a t-shirt. I'm wearing like 2 layers of clothing. So we are in very different cities. So I'm currently in Gwalior, which is tier 2, tier 3 city, and Saurabh is in Mumbai, right? And Salil is in Pune.
Gwalior wins hands down. The fact that you are sitting in Gwalior, we are sitting here. I'm sure thousands of people who watch your YouTube channel are sitting all over India. Many of them are not sitting in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore. Right? That's the fascinating part. Right? That change, the mindset change. Right? Change कहाँ पे शुरू होती है? Change दिमाग में शुरू होती है. Right? And जो psychological change हुआ है last 10 साल में, allied to infrastructural changes. Right? Highway networks have doubled, broadband connectivity up 50-fold, bank accounts have trebled, local airline traffic 5 गुना हो गया. Those changes are the changes which underpin our lives. They drive the way countries develop and grow. And because these forces are way more powerful than our perceptions are, all we can do is focus on the basic unit of analysis, which is in our case, the company. Maybe if I was a Reserve Bank governor, my unit of analysis kuch aur hoti. But here we are, people managing companies. Our unit of analysis is the company. And through the prism of the company, say through the prism of, say, Relaxo, we see Gwalior as a booming market because Relaxo sees Gwalior as a booming market. And क्यों Gwalior booming market बनाए? A whole host of structural changes in the country that I don't think any of us could have predicted, let alone 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, हम predict नहीं कर पाते.
Definitely, like discussing my time of growing up. So one of the key changes that happened was the internet. जब मेरे पास internet आया, so that was back in like 96, 97 के आसपास, early 2000 के आसपास in fact. तो internet cost used to be really high, and मेरे parents भी बोलते थे कि if you are growing up in tier 2, tier 3 city, the difference between your learning and people who are learning in Delhi, Mumbai, the difference will be huge. But now, if we actually look at the edtech sector, the way it is functioning, a lot of good kids are coming out from tier 2, tier 3 cities in sports, in education, in cracking IITs. Why? Because of one structural change, that is internet. So I think that's a great segue. We can start.
Talking about kids coming from tier 2, tier 3, great talent. Salil comes from a village in Gujarat. I think Salil, that change is also from a village in Gujarat to managing billions of dollars. वो भी थोड़ा समझाइए आप.
The kind of twist to the story is that although that's my ancestral village, I was actually born in Bombay, but yeah, very special place there where I keep going. And I know a lot of people I know in the neighborhood, right? People who live, say, in the same street that where my ancestral home is. The grandparents probably lived in a not a kacha, but a semi-pakka house, right? And the third generation of kids are all going to not Bombay, Delhi, but sometimes even to Australia and to the US for studies, right? So I think the change that we've seen in the last 30, 40, 50 years, especially in the last 10 years, right? That acceleration is tremendous. And it's so great that change has actually reached the smallest places in India, the remotest corners of the country. And I don't think that's going to reverse again, right? That's going to only going to accelerate so far. And so a lot of great things are changing and
the interesting thing, Akshat and Salil, is that ये जो discourse हम कर रहे हैं, if you open, say, the daily opinion pieces in the newspapers, वो pink papers हो या white papers, वो कुछ दूसरा ही discourse चल रहा है वहाँ पे. वहाँ पे कोई दूसरा डिस्कोर्स चल रहा है अबाउट क्राइम, वायलेंस, ये फट गया, फिस्कल डेफिसिट, वो बर्बाद हो गया, राइट? एंड इट्स बिजार. It's almost as if it's like two different countries in parallel. Here's Akshat in Gwalior, Salil talking about the village, his ancestral village in Gujarat. I'm a migrant to this country. 10 साल में मेरे सामने एक country बदला है. But the popular perception, or popular in the sense, the prestigious perception, जो उच्च श्रेणी के लोग हैं, जो अखबार में ऑपेड पेजेस लिखते हैं, वो कुछ दूसरा ही डिस्कोर्स में फंसे हुए हैं. And that disconnect in a way gives you an arbitrage.
Okay.
Because the popular perception is कुछ और, कि फट गया है सिस्टम, बर्बाद है. But the life you have lived is telling you a different message. In a way, your generation, and it's remarkable that you're sitting in Gwalior doing this YouTube video to be watched by thousands, perhaps lakhs of people, and yet the people who form opinions, op-ed pages wale, they haven't caught on to this whole structural trend. And that basically creates an arbitrage opportunity of investing in the future of this change. Right? Millions of people like us, hum constituent units hai, millions of people like us form this change, right? And this change in a way transforms the economy, is transforming the economy. That change we are playing by investing in companies that are benefiting from the transformation of Gwalior or of Gujarat or of the entirety of tier 2, tier 3 India.
Right. Absolutely. So, Saurabh and Salil, आप थोड़ा सा अपन डिटेल में जाते हैं, right? And what we can do is that we can just structure the conversation a little bit more about the specific investment methodologies, what people can use to make money, especially small retail investors. That's one. Second, some of the structural changes that are happening in the economy or in the world and in India. हमने वहीं से conversation start kiya. So we'll keep it a little bit rapid fire type of a thing, right? Where I'll ask a few questions and you can share your investment thesis around it, right? And then I can follow up by doing 2-3 more follow-up questions on that.
Okay, बढ़िया.
Right? Cool. Okay, so first things first, I think there is a lot of panic right now when we are sitting in like on 20th January, right? And market thoda sa correct kar gaya hai, right? And some stocks, for example, HUL, right? And by the way, this is a disclaimer that neither Saurabh and Salil or me are giving any stock buying and selling recommendations. We are just having a conversation and discussion, right? So please do your due diligence after this. And we are just going to use some examples just to make the conversation a little bit more pointed. That's the only perspective of bringing these companies. So please take it with that grain of salt. Okay. So yeah. So coming back to the question, Saurabh. So काफी सारा panic है अभी market में, right? Some good companies have fallen, HUL has fallen, etc. And people think कि mean reversal कभी होगा ही नहीं, right? I mean, if these type of companies fall, so what would be your message, especially for people who are just started getting into the stock market game and अब वो थोड़ा सा correction देखना उन्होंने शुरू किया है after COVID, जिन लोगों ने अभी recent entry ली थी, especially around retail customers.
So Akshat, आप दो मुद्दे छेड़ रहे हो. So let's tease it out and I'll ask Salil to deal with the first aspect. कि मार्केट करेक्शन होता है तो क्या करना चाहिए या मार्केट चढ़ रहा है तो क्या करना चाहिए. I'll request Salil to deal with that aspect कि चढ़ रहा है मार्केट, गिर रहा है मार्केट में क्या करूं वाला. और जो दूसरा पॉइंट आपने छेड़ा कि नए इन्वेस्टर को क्या करना चाहिए, ठीक है. तो Salil, why don't you begin by ये जो मार्केट चढ़ रहा है, गिर रहा है. I didn't realize कि मार्केट गिर रहा है, but I'm sure Akshat is right, मार्केट शायद गिर रहा है. तो क्या करना चाहिए लोगों को, मार्केट चढ़े या गिरे?
So Akshat, the last 15 days, I thought on one day a headline आया था कि market tanks because Omicron concerns. दूसरे दिन market incidentally went up. Right? The newspaper had to say something. So they said that Omicron is not a significant risk, so market has gone up. Okay? Now एक दिन में तो Omicron पे obviously no scientific breakthrough has come, which can change the opinion of not just the medical fraternity, but even stock market participants, that ek din, it's down 1% and next day it is up 1%, right? So for a retail investor, I think the first thing to do is to forget or stop worrying about what happens in a week, in a month, maybe even in a 6-month period. And how you can do that is simply focus on buying great businesses. Okay, if you buy a great business, you're automatically buying a great stock. So all your analysis should be focused on finding great companies which will do well, irrespective of what is happening in the market, in the economy, right? Omicron, upar niche, interest rate, inflation, and all of that. Because if a business is great, right, it has the ability to keep making returns on capital consistently, or high returns on capital consistently, then that company will, over a period of time, do well. That same company, probably in a week, you might see it going down by 10, 15, 20%. But long term में you will always make money.
एक मेरा छोटा सा क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे काउंटर क्वेश्चन ये होगा सर कि फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू कंसिडर द एंटायर इन्फ्लेशन गेम दैट इज हैपनिंग इन द इकोनॉमी, इट कैन बी मिसमैनेज्ड, राइट? जैसे कि इन्फ्लेशन इफ इट गोज अप, अगर आपने क्वांटिटेटिव ईजिंग करी एंड इफ द इन्फ्लेशन गोज अप, then that inflation it becomes sometimes beyond control what governments can do to bring that inflation down. जैसे कि काफी सारी इकोनॉमीज में भी ये सारी
ऐसे ही सप्लाई साइड इन्फ्लेशन है, सरकार के हाथ में वैसे भी कुछ नहीं है. सो फेडरल रिजर्व नो दिस फुल वेल, सो डज आवर सेंट्रल बैंक. जब सप्लाई साइड से इन्फ्लेशन आती है, आपके पास सेमीकंडक्टर है नहीं, आपके पास शिपिंग कैपेसिटी उतनी है नहीं, बिकॉज थ्रू द लास्ट 10 ईयर शिपिंग कैपेसिटी लगाई नहीं गई, राइट? आपके पास कर्टेसी कोविड, वो हमारे देश में वर्कर्स विलेज में बैठे हैं, यूएस में वर्कर बोल रहे हैं हम काम करना ही नहीं चाहते, आपके पास लेबर स्कैरसिटी है. सो जो आपकी सप्लाई साइड इन्फ्लेशन है, आप ज्यादा वैसे ही मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी से कर नहीं सकते. बट वन ऑफ द रीजंस आई डिस्करेज पीपल फ्रॉम गेटिंग टू लॉस्ट इन दिस डिस्कोर्स, राइट? काफी लोग सोचते हैं कि अगर मैं सर फोड़ के फेडरल रिजर्व के क्वांटिटेटिव ईजिंग के बारे में और टाइटनिंग के बारे में पढ़ लूं, मेरे को समझ आ जाएगी क्या होने वाला है मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी में. Right? That's a policy of epic proportion, because neither is the Federal Reserve nor the RBI. By definition, they won't behave in a way that they can be second guessed. Because if they can be second guessed, तो फिर फायदा है क्या उनके एग्जिस्टेंस का? ठीक है. Now that brings us to the heart of, आपने बोला नया निवेशक, राइट? नया निवेशक के लिए सबसे डिफिकल्ट चीज क्या होता है सीखना, राइट? ये मेरे को मेरी जिंदगी के 20 साल लगे, सो आई एम अ लिटिल डिप, आई हैव टू कन्फेस, राइट? तो मेरे को 20 साल लगा, राइट? मेरे को, मैं जब कॉलेज में था, मेरे एक प्रोफेसर ने पूछा तेरे को क्या करना है. आई स्टूपिडली टोल्ड माय प्रोफेसर एट द एलएसई कि मेरे को स्टॉक मार्केट में जाना है. सो उसने बोला इसको मैं सबक सिखाता हूँ, मैं इसको डरा देता हूँ. तो उसने मेरे को किताब दी by a man called Burton Malkiel called Random Walk Down Wall Street, right? तो मैंने किताब पढ़ी. तो किताब में क्या समझाया गया, सो मैं थोड़ा रैंडम वॉक का डेफिनेशन रीड आउट करता हूँ, एंड दोज हु हैवंट रेड रैंडम वॉक डाउन वॉल स्ट्रीट शुड रीड इट. इट्स वन ऑफ द सिंपलेस्ट बुक्स टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द स्टॉक मार्केट वर्क्स. रैंडम वॉक क्या चीज होती है? सो मैं रीड आउट कर रहा हूँ विकिपीडिया से. टेक्निकल डिस्क्रिप्शन है, रैंडम वॉक इज अ मैथमेटिकल ऑब्जेक्ट known as a stochastic or random process that describes a path that consists of a succession of random steps, right? Now, तो plain English में समझाते हैं. A simple example of a random walk is, think of an integer, say integer number, say call it z. Z will start at 0. At each step, Z can either go up 1 or it can go down 1, right? So Z 0 पे शुरू होता है, each step पे ऊपर जा सकता है 1, नीचे जा सकता है 1, right? Now, a random walk is when Z can with equal probability go up or down, which means the day-to-day movement of Z, right? Z हर रोज 0 से ऊपर जाएगा 1 या नीचे जाएगा 1. The day-to-day movement not only can be not predicted, the day-to-day movement is by definition random. It contains no noise, right? ये चीज सीखने में मेरे को 20 साल लग गया. The stock price of a company tells you nothing useful, right? So हमारी किताब आपको हमने अपने Diamonds in the Dust दिखाई. इसकी जो हमारी पिछली किताब है Coffee Can Investing, we've given around 10 pages of charts to show that the PE multiple or the PB multiple over 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 1 year has no predictive power, right? Now this is very hard for the mind to grasp, right? Because mind को लगता है मार्केट में करेक्शन हो रहा है या चढ़ रहा है, इसकी तो जरूर कुछ बड़ी सिग्निफिकेंस है. भगवान मेरे को कोई मैसेज भेज रहा है स्टॉक के बारे में कि स्टॉक अच्छी है बुरी है, डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हाट माइंडसेट. कोई बोलेगा स्टॉक गिर रही है ज्यादा लो, कोई बोलेगा स्टॉक गिर रही है अरे खत्म होने वाला है, टेक्निकल में कुछ दिखेगा. बट द रियलिटी इज stock prices across the world for a century now have shown is the stock price itself connotes nothing. It has no significance. And therefore, the last thing a newcomer in the market should be doing, those who are new to the market, who are fans of Akshat Shrivastava, the last thing you should be doing is looking at the stock price. So when I said I didn't know the market has corrected, I didn't say it in jest. मैं seriously बोल रहा हूँ, हम stock prices देखते नहीं हैं, right? हम क्या देखते हैं? हम क्या करते हैं सारा दिन बैठ के, अदर देन रीडिंग बुक्स ऑन फाइनेंस, हिस्ट्री एंड साइकोलॉजी? हम पढ़ते हैं एनुअल रिपोर्ट, राइट? एनुअल रिपोर्ट क्यों पढ़ते हैं? बिकॉज एज सलिल सेड, इफ यू कैन फिगर आउट बाय रीडिंग 10 to 15 years of annual reports whether this company is good in both in the senses of the promoter is clean and good in the senses of this franchise is a high quality franchise, it generates a return on capital well above cost of capital, which the promoter then reinvests intelligently. That is the job of an analyst. So if you're new to the markets, do not look at the stock price. उसमें आपको जिंदगी में कोई कमाने के मौके नहीं मिलेंगे, right? It's a little bit like staring at the stars and saying मैं एस्ट्रोनॉट बन जाऊंगा, मैं तारे देखूंगा रात को आसमान में और मैं चांद पे पहुंच जाऊंगा. नहीं होगा, right? If you want to become an astronaut, there's a whole course of training and effort you have to put in to get on the rocket to the moon, right? Or perhaps you can call up Elon Musk, वो आपको चढ़ा देगा, चांद भेज देगा, right? यहाँ पे हमारी किताब is our best way to give you a sense, your audience a sense कि आपको देखना क्या चाहिए, कैसे अकाउंट्स पढ़ते हैं, अकाउंट्स में क्या क्या चीजें देखते हैं. जब मैनेजमेंट डिस्कशन एंड एनालिसिस एनुअल रिपोर्ट में थे, उस पर किस मुद्दे पे फोकस करते हैं, राइट? एंड द मोर यू गो ग्रैन्युलर, the more you go to the annual report, to the source of wisdom, and the less you try to discern from stock prices and bond yields and interest rates, the less you discern, the more you will both succeed in markets and the more you will find the journey fulfilling.
Right, absolutely.
And if I can actually, sure. Just one point on the random walk that Saurabh brought up. So what one of my professors had taught me was, and I think that is also from the book, is that the random walk is like the path a drunken monkey will take from point A to point B. बंदर पिया हुआ है तो पहला स्टेप शायद सीधा जाएगा, दूसरा लेफ्ट जाएगा, राइट जाएगा, किसी को नहीं पता है, उसके बाद कहाँ जाएगा किसी को. So the daily movement of the stock market is exactly like that, and it is futile exercise trying to know, because कभी पता नहीं चलेगा. So don't waste your time in trying to do that.
Right. So, sir, यहाँ पे एक क्वेश्चन ये होगा कि जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ वी टॉक अबाउट पीटर लिंच, सो ही यूजुअली सेज कि इन द लॉन्ग टर्म फंडामेंटल्स ऑफ द स्टॉक विल कैच अप विद द स्टॉक प्राइस. इन द शॉर्ट टर्म वो रैंडम वॉक इन द पाथ वाला जो फिलॉसफी है दैट माइट वर्क, बट इन द लॉन्ग टर्म द फंडामेंटल्स विल कैच अप. सो व्हाट आर द फंडामेंटल्स, इफ यू कैन बुलेट इट आउट, कि अगर 3-4 सेंटेंसेस में आपको बताने हो तो व्हाट विल बी दोस फंडामेंटल्स?
I'll request Salil to do that, but before Salil does that, I'll give your audience an example of a human being who does a random walk in the stock market. So in my young days when I was 27, 28, 29, I was a broker in London. तो वहाँ पे मार्केट का ट्रेडिंग शुरू होता है 8 बजे, लेकिन रिजल्ट्स आना शुरू हो जाता है 7 बजे. तो मैं एनालिस्ट था, यंग एनालिस्ट, मैं ऑफिस पहुंचता था 7 बजे रिजल्ट आते थे. 701 मेरे 2 बड़े हेज फंड क्लाइंट्स थे. 701 वो हेज फंड क्लाइंट, क्या लग रहा है, खरीदो बेचो. तो मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ, पढ़ो, जल्दी बोल, खरीदना बेचना. दिस इज हेज फंड इन लंदन, राइट? सो आई वुड से लग रहा है कि इट्स बीटन एक्सपेक्टेशन. अच्छा ठीक है, पुट अ बाय ट्रेड, ठीक है. फिर रिजल्ट्स आएगा 12 बजे, मैनेजमेंट स्पीक करेगी कि ये रिजल्ट्स में ऐसा था, मोटामोटी था, हमारी आउटलुक है कि हम गाइडेंस रेज कर रहे हैं. खोला भी नहीं, तूने बोला खराब है, रिजल्ट खराब है, अरे गाइडेंस रेज कर रहा है तो खरीद, राइट? सो सुबह वो बेचेगा 8 बजे, दोपहर को 12 बजे वो खरीदेगा, राइट? एंड वी यूज्ड टू लव दिस क्लाइंट बिकॉज ही यूज्ड टू डू दिस ऑन एवरी रिजल्ट, राइट? देन 4 बजे वो बोलेगा हमने सुबह बेचा, शाम दोपहर को खरीदा, अब तो हम न्यूट्रल पे आ गए, अब क्या करें? तो मैं बोलूँ सर आपको क्या करना है, तू ऑफिस आ जा, बात करते हैं इसके बारे में, कुछ बड़ा करते हैं. Go to his office. So he would say, तो ऐसा करते हैं, कल हम ना पेयर ट्रेड मारते हैं, इसको शॉर्ट करते हैं, उसको खरीदते हैं, इससे क्या होगा, न्यूट्रल पोजीशन बनेगा, लेकिन हम अल्फा को कैप्चर करेंगे. सो आई थिंक ये तो और मजा आ रहा है यार, और मजा आ रहा है, ये तो और करेगा हमको. सो दिस इज द लाइफ ऑफ, I'm talking about professional fund managers, right? This was a bright guy, कैम्ब्रिज का बंदा था, नाम नहीं लूंगा, right? 30 साल की उम्र थी उसकी, मेरी 27-28 थी. We actually became good friends. I still stay in touch with him. But this is the most useless form of activity in the planet. Those who are watching it, आप फेडरल रिजर्व का इंटरेस्ट रेट देखो, आप इंडिया का इन्फ्लेशन साइकिल देखो, आप स्टॉक प्राइस ताको, सारी जिंदगी ये खरीदने में निकल जाएगा. That being said, he was a hedge fund में ट्रेडर था, तो अच्छा कमाया, बड़ी नौकरी, बड़ा घर, but it's the most intellectually soul destroying way to live. Now, Salil, the more useful part, right? अगर हम random walk नहीं कर रहे, right? कर क्या रहे हैं, करना क्या चाहिए?
Right. So, like you said, bullet it out. So I'll try bulleting it out. Right. There are three aspects. In fact, if people read the book, they'll get a more detailed sense of it. In summary, three things very important to focus on. First, clean promoters, right? Or clean companies, clean accounting, right? So you do checks on whether the accounting quality is good or not. The second is you need to assess for competitive advantages, right? Competitive advantage, very simply put, it is what allows you to make money, right? Any business, why does it make money? Because it does something, it is an advantage which other companies do not have, right? Its competitors do not have. The third thing is, if you have competitive advantages, naturally you're making money, you're making lots of money. What do you do with that money, right? Which is called as capital allocation. So how do you use that money to either grow your business or to keep strengthening your competitive advantage, right? This is the two ways you can use excess cash that a company or a business is generating. Now, within these three things, if you try and get a sense of, you'll be more than comfortable, आराम से आप lifetime invest करके पैसा बनाओ. How do you do this, right? In accounting quality, right? You can do a set of accounting ratios. Again, details in the book, but I'll give you 2-3 things which anybody can do, right? You don't have to be a chartered accountant. You don't have to be an expert in doing this. Read at least, right? Ideally, we as professionals, we read 15-20 years of annual reports. You read at least 3 years of annual reports. In these 3 years of annual reports, check for 3 or 4 things. First is check who is on the board of directors. Board of directors में अगर promoter के भाई बहन, cousins, family members, दोस्त वगैरह हैं, तो थोड़ा डर के रहो, right? Rather avoid करो, right? That's the first thing. So check the board of directors. Second is check the related party transactions, right? These are simple direct disclosures available in every annual report. तो आपको कुछ उसमें analysis करने की जरूरत नहीं है. If you see that company is doing a lot of business with some other company which is owned by the promoters, again, be very, very worried about investing in these names. Third thing is you check the cash flow statement. Again, simple disclosure. उसमें एक item होती है cash flow from operations. Cash flow from operations should be positive number. Even better, cash flow from operations minus cash flow from investments. Again, direct item disclosed. वो भी positive होना चाहिए, right? What these two mean is that cash flow from operations means that profit is finally, as is known in the market, profit is an opinion. Cash is a fact. Cash flow from operations tells you whether the business on a regular basis is making money or not. Rokda, right, is what you want. And if it is making money, whether it is growing, cash from investments, right? Capex जो हो रहा है, growth के लिए जो invest करते हैं, if that is also being met out of that same cash flows or not, meaning that you don't depend on raising money from outside the company, right? Which could be debt or anything, or equity. So you don't want that, right? So check for these three simple things, even if you don't want to do detailed, accounting analysis. On the competitive advantage, you check for, we follow a framework called IBSA, right? I will not go into technicalities, but there you basically figure out, okay, at the heart of it, you keep asking questions till you get a sense of, okay, a company पैसा क्यों बनाती है? Why does this company make more money than its nearest competitor, right? So for example, if there is a company making soaps, right? There are 10 companies making soaps in India, right? But if there are only 2 of them who are making, say, ROCs of 30%, the others are making ROC of 20%, 15%. Try and find out why this is happening, right? It could be because, distribution is great, right? It is because it has a great brand, although a brand by itself will not allow you to make money, but along with other things, whether the product quality is great, and so on and so forth. Finally, get to the heart of the reason why it is making money. And the fourth thing, capital allocation, is you look at history and see if is the company, one is expanding capacities to grow its core business, is it investing in adjacent products, right? So साबुन बनाने वाला साबुन में मार्केट अगर सैचुरेट हो रहा है, सो क्या शैम्पू बना रहा है या कुछ और कर रहा है, राइट? कुछ और में क्या कर रहा है, आईपीएल की क्रिकेट टीम खरीद रहा है, तो that's a dangerous, right? That's the thing that you need to worry about. So that is capital allocation. Where are you putting money? Private jet खरीद रहा है प्रमोटर या फैक्ट्री में कैपेसिटी बढ़ा रहा है? So that's what you need to check. Very, very simple. These three things, within these three things individually, we have listed. In fact, we have a checklist in the book, right? So आपको ज़्यादा detail पे भी अगर नहीं जाना है, just kind of keep a checklist, and that's more than enough, right? That's a great bottom-up analysis to do and make sure that you are investing in the right companies.
Wonderful framework, sir. So अगर अपन इसमें थोड़ा सा अगर if we take a step ahead and if we speak about slightly more intermediate level investors, so then argument could be made कि every industry, every company would have a different moat, and the way the business needs to be analyzed might be really different. For example, if we pick a specific case around Paytm, so Paytm में the major problem, at least when I read the financial statements and look at the data, would be कि they have issues around GMV, right? The gross margin value of the product. Now, they don't have problem in terms of acquiring customers. Their customer acquisition has been great, but the GMV around it is quite low. So वो add नहीं हो रहा if you compare it with something like PayPal and bunch of other similar companies that exist in the similar industry. So then would you say कि, you know, should intermediate level investors in the stock market, how should they try out this framework that you have explained, or would that remain the same irrespective of whichever industry you're doing the analysis for?
Yes, I mean, the framework remains the same. See, finally, in competitive advantage, what are we trying to assess is what we call as pricing power, right? Can you charge a price for the product which allows you to make that return on capital which is higher than or substantially higher than the cost of capital? Okay. Now, whether it is, you know, a platform new age fintech company like Paytm, or it is some old school, you know, manufacturer of you know, footwear, right, or luxury retail or cars or whatever, but the question that you have to ask remains the same. Do you have pricing power? How do you make money, right? And why would you not have pricing power? Maybe it's a competitive market, right? GMV is less, then why is it less, right? Maybe there are 5 other people who are offering the same product or the same service. And if you can't find an answer to why this company can have, if not today, at least sometime in the future, will you have pricing power which will allow you to make money more than what the next guy is making? And that will give you your answer. The framework does not change. The answer questions remain the same. The answers will differ, and that will give you the direction you need to go.
Understood, sir. So, I mean, of course, we have complicated it a little bit. So, आपको एक बार पहले थोड़ा सा पीछे जाके सुनना पड़ेगा, right? People who are watching this video to make notes around it. But hopefully, that will be a good learning exercise. And one question that I keep getting is around the PE ratio. जैसे पुराने ज़माने में people just used to look at the PE ratio and they used to buy something. अगर PE 25-30 से नीचे हो जाए तो खरीद लो. And if it goes beyond 25-30, then just sell it off. So, आप इसकी mathematical equation समझा सकते हैं, या if you can give some data around it, your experience around buying like low PE business. And how do you actually, sort of break down PE?
So part of it comes back to random walk वाली चीज, right? अगर PE में कोई value नहीं है, signaling value, right? And by the way, people at home, feel free to check. आप check कर लीजिए PE में low PE. There is no movement. There is no predictability in PE movements, right? It is a drunkard's walk. ठीक है? Now, a lot of people, by the way, one common misperception is a lot of people look at the absolute price, right? This ये तो 10 रुपए का स्टॉक है, ये लेना चाहिए, 1000 रुपए का नहीं. वो hopefully जो जनता इसको watch कर रही है, not like that. So therefore, to make the comparison between companies like for like, what the industry has done is they've normalized it, right? P को E से divide कर दिया है. Just because P को E से divide कर दिया है, it doesn't take away the random character of the multiple. The PE multiple still is a random walk again. Right? So, it crushes people's heart just because P is a random walk, right? Even if you divide by E, it's still a random walk, right? So statistics 101, अगर E से divide कर दिया, फिर भी random walk, which therefore means PE has no signaling value. And as I said, Coffee Can Investing के appendices में हमने 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year पे दिखाया है. आज का PE low हो या high हो, that doesn't tell you कि आपका पैसा बनेगा या नहीं बनेगा, ठीक है? तो आपका पैसा बनेगा कैसे, एंड हाउ डू यू नो कितना पैसा बनेगा, राइट? सो हियर इज द वे वी हैव सिंप्लीफाइड इट in our books and in our discussions with clients. First thing, right? Any company can only make money for Akshat, for Salil, for Saurabh, for all of us अगर वो कंपनी ग्रो करे. अगर वो कंपनी ग्रो करेगी तो पैसा बनेगा, राइट? हाउ डू वी नो पैसा बनेगा? सो वी डू क्लास 9 क्लास 10 का मैथ, डिपेंडिंग ऑन आप आईसीएसई पढ़े हो, सीबीएसई सिलेबस पढ़े हो, डिपेंडिंग डिफरेंट स्टेज में आपको सिखाया गया होगा. सो पीई, सो द प्राइस ऑफ एनी कंपनी, शेयर प्राइस इज इक्वल टू पीई मल्टीप्लाइड बाय ई, राइट? लेफ्ट हैंड साइड ई कट गया, लेफ्ट हैंड साइड, राइट हैंड साइड हो गया. नाउ डिफरेंशिएशन, राइट? बेसिक सा बिल्कुल बेसिक डिफरेंशिएशन, राइट? डेल्टा पी, change in P is equal to change in PE plus change in E, right? So अगर P is equal to PE times E, change in P is equal to change in PE plus change in E, ठीक है? So उसका मतलब हिंदी में क्या है? आप दो तरीके से पैसे कमा सकते हो. अर्निंग्स ऊपर गई, कंपनी का मुनाफा ऊपर गया, कंपनी की PE ऊपर गई. अगर दोनों ऊपर गए, आप बल्ले बल्ले आप पार्टी कर रहे हो, ठीक है? नाउ मानिए किसी स्टॉक की PE 10 साल में डबल हो गई. तो 10 साल में डबल मतलब हर साल वो 7% से बढ़ा, ठीक है? तो आपका चेंज इन स्टॉक प्राइस डबल हो गई, आपका चेंज इन पीई आ गया 7%, राइट? नाउ हाउ मच विल ई ग्रो एट? इसका एक बहुत रूडिमेंट्री सा तरीका है, राइट? इफ यू वांट टू डू अ क्विक एंड डर्टी, आपने बोला वो मिडिल के लोगों के लिए बात कर रहे थे. अगर आपको रूडिमेंट्री तरीके से समझना है कि चेंज इन अर्निंग्स कितनी आएगी, आप रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल लीजिए कंपनी का. रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल का मैथ्स हमने डायमंड्स इन द डस्ट में दिया है, सिंपल है. ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट डिवाइडेड बाय धंधे में कितना पैसा लगाया है मालिक ने. ये एनुअल रिपोर्ट इजीली कैलकुलेबल है. सो आप रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल लीजिए, उससे आप कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल सब्ट्रैक्ट कीजिए, और सिंप्लीफाई करने के लिए अस्यूम कीजिए कि हिंदुस्तान में कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल इज 15%. रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल मानिए आपका 45%, जो इंडिया में एलीट कंपनीज का होता है, निफ्टी वाले कंपनीज नहीं, यूजुअली एलीट कंपनीज, right? 45 का return on capital, मानिए cost of capital 15, the spread is 30%, right? Now that is the surplus that the company has generated. Now the promoter often dividends out some of this to finance his lifestyle, his family's lifestyle. So simplicity के तौर पे मानिए 1/3 is dividended out. 20%, two thirds of 30%, which is 20%, right? And remember, I'll repeat again, 45% return on capital था, 15% cost of capital था, difference था 30. उसमें से 1/3 डिविडेंड बांटा गया, 2/3 2/3 of 30%, 20% एक्स्ट्रा कैपिटल धंधे में डाला गया. एज अ ब्रॉड रूल ऑफ थंब, इफ द कंपनी डजंट बेनिफिट फ्रॉम इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल, उस कंपनी का मुनाफा ग्रो करेगा करीबन 20% से. अगर कंपनी में थोड़ी बहुत एफिशिएंसी है, इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल है, तो वो मुनाफा 25 से ग्रो करेगा रादर देन 20, राइट? एंड दैट इज रियली ऑल यू नीड टू डू, फॉर्म अ मैथमेटिकल पिक्चर ऑफ कि रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल कितनी है, देयरफॉर सरप्लस कितना बनता है, उसमें से मालिक डिविडेंड में कितना निकाल लेते हैं, धंधे में वापस कितना उड़ेलते हैं, डज ही डू अ डिसेंट जॉब ऑफ री इन्वेस्टिंग. सलिल का पॉइंट, री इन्वेस्ट धंधे में करता है या प्राइवेट जेट खरीदता है, राइट? अगर धंधे में री इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है, मोटा मोटी वो धंधा 20-25% से ग्रो करेगा. नाउ कमिंग बैक टू आपका पैसा कितना बनेगा, चेंज इन पी इज इक्वल टू चेंज इन पीई प्लस चेंज इन अर्निंग्स. तो अगर आपकी चेंज इन पी है 7% प्लस 7, चेंज इन अर्निंग्स है प्लस 25, आपका मोटा मोटी कंपाउंडिंग रहेगा ओवर द नेक्स्ट 10 साल 32. नाउ लेट्स अज्यूम कि कुछ अनर्थ हो गया, राइट? कुछ अनर्थ हो गया, क्वांटिटेटिव क्या बोलते हैं, टाइटनिंग हो गई, राइट? ग्लोबल वार्मिंग हो गया, मार्स में नई अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल गई, किसी को मार्स से कंपटीशन आने लग गई, राइट? तो अगला 10 साल का थीम रहा, मार्स से लोग कंपीट कर रहे हैं हमारे साथ, राइट? तो मानिए 10 साल डी ट्रेंड चला, नीचे चला पीई मल्टीपल, राइट? क्या बोलते हैं, स्ट्रक्चरल डी रेटिंग बोलते हैं इसको, राइट? तो आपका -7 आ गया, +7 की जगह है, राइट? +7 था जब वो लगा मार्स इज द नेक्स्ट बिग अपॉर्चुनिटी, -7 जब मार्स से कंपटीशन आना शुरू हो जाएगा, -7. आपका कंपनी का मुनाफा फिर भी 25 से बढ़ रहा है, तो आपकी कमाई आएगी 25 - 7 18, राइट? सो इसमें आपका हमारा क्या योगदान है, वो चेंज इन पी वाला चीज ना तो आप ना तो मैं, और मेरे 20 साल में किसी को मैं मिला नहीं हूं. And as I said, I've catered to most of the, due to the sins in my previous life, I've catered to the needs of most of the hedge funds in London, right? उनको कुछ फनक तक नहीं थी. Forget change in P, 10 साल में क्या होगा, अगले 10 घंटे में क्या होगा उनको पता नहीं था, right? Change in P, if you believe that's a random walk, and it genuinely is, the only thing which drives your wealth is the earnings compounding piece. If the earnings compounding is 25, P doubles, P halves, you're still good. The challenge is to take your eyes and your mind off the change in P, because the mind gets hypnotically dragged to it. अरे बहुत स्टॉक चल रहा है या गिर रहा है, कितना मजेदार है ना, मजा आ रहा है, राइट? सो इन द अकबर बीरबल कहानी, वो सबसे मेमोरेबल कहानी है, वो अमर चित्रकथा में पढ़ी थी. वेयर इज दैट बंदा लुकिंग फॉर द रिंग एट नाइट, राइट? रिंग खोया उसका कहीं और, लेकिन बत्ती यहाँ पे जल रही है, तो मैं वहां पे ताक रहा हूँ, राइट? The P multiple is where the light is on. So the human mind is attracted there. The real action is in the change in earnings. To understand that, you need to read the 10 years of annual reports. If you don't want to do that, at least read 3 years of annual reports, figure out the ROC, figure out the surplus, figure out dividend कितना बांटा जा रहा है, कितना reinvest हो रहा है, और वो अगर ढंग से हो रहा है, आपका wealth उस पैमाने पे बढ़ेगा.
वंडरफुल सर. एक मेरा इसमें छोटा सा काउंटर क्वेश्चन ये होगा कि जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अपन एक एग्जांपल उठाते हैं जैसे कोडेक, राइट? सो कोडेक का अगर आप एनुअल रिपोर्ट पढ़ोगे, मैंने पढ़ा नहीं है, आई एम जस्ट गिविंग एन एग्जांपल, मे बी आई विल बी इनकरेक्ट हियर. सो जैसे कोडेक एट इट्स पीक माइट बी अ cash flow rich business, would have been making profits, and it was at the top of its game. But because of value migration principle, the entire structure of the industry itself changed. Now, I will not speak about cryptos. I'll speak about blockchain from that angle. So, there's a blockchain-based businesses काफी सारे आ रहे हैं, right? And Indian government is also working on it. A lot of key changes are happening in this space. So, do you think कि ये वाला principle will still hold on companies that might undergo structural changes? And is there like any framework that you use in terms of assessing these type of key changes that might happen?
So बहुत interesting आपने मुद्दा छेड़ा. Now just dwell for a minute what we have discussed in the last half an hour. हमने बोला कि हम ऐसे लोगों से बात कर रहे हैं शायद उनके पास टाइम ना हो और ट्रेनिंग ना हो कि लास्ट 10 साल के एनुअल रिपोर्ट पढ़े, राइट? तो जो ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट में लिखी है वो पढ़ने का टाइम है नहीं, लेकिन हम जिनके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं वो क्रिप्टो करेंसी या ब्लॉकचेन या AI और EV, ये सब बारे में वो लोग डिस्कस कर सकते हैं. सो नेचुरली इट स्टैंड्स टू रीजन कि आपसे अगर लास्ट 10 साल का एनुअल रिपोर्ट पढ़ा नहीं जाएगा तो जो भी शख्स है जो EV AI ब्लॉकचेन के बारे में सर फोड़ने की चेष्टा कर रहा है वो भी लॉजिकली इम्पॉसिबल है. सो इफ यू कांट डू द फॉर्मर, read annual reports, you can't do the latter, which is predict the future of the world. ठीक है? Now, how do you then de-risk your investment? How do you make sure that आपका investment कोडाक बनकर तबाह ना हो जाए? ठीक है? So पहला simple नुस्खा, right? पोर्टफोलियो को डाइवर्सिफाई करें, right? 1971 से मॉडिग्लियानी मिलर ने दिखाया है कि 15 स्टॉक की पोर्टफोलियो होनी चाहिए, राइट? 13, 14, 15 स्टॉक के कम मत लीजिए, एक स्टॉक के अंदर नाचिए मत. Because as Akshat Shrivastava nicely put it, अगर एक स्टॉक आपका कोडाक होकर स्वाहा हो जाए तो आप नहीं चाहते वैसा हो, सो आप डाइवर्सिफाई कीजिए. दूसरी चीज, none of us know the future, whether it is the future of the stock price. We don't even know the future of ICE कब जाएगा, EV कब आएगी, नॉर्मल टेक्नोलॉजी कब जाएगी, ब्लॉकचेन कब आएगा. फ्यूचर नहीं जानते, बट हम क्या जानते हैं कि हम जानते हैं इस कंपनी में मेहनत कितनी हो रही है, इनोवेशन कितनी हो रही है. कैसे जानते हैं? क्योंकि एनुअल रिपोर्ट में लिखा होता है इनोवेशन हो रही है नहीं. अगर कंपनी नए प्रोडक्ट्स ला रही है एनुअल रिपोर्ट में बोलती है, राइट, कि हम ये प्रोडक्ट्स ला रहे हैं. अगर आप देख रहे हो कि ये कंपनी ना तो नए प्रोडक्ट्स लाती है, ना तो R&D के बारे में डिस्कशन करती है, ना तो इनोवेशन के बारे में डिस्कस करती है, और ना ही डिसरप्शन के बारे में कोई प्रयास करती है, तो हाई चांस है कि अगर सब कुछ आज हसीन है वो बर्बाद हो सकता है. क्यों? बिकॉज कंपनी लेजी है, राइट? सो आप स्पोर्ट्स में लेजी हो या कॉर्पोरेट लाइफ में लेजी होगे तो आप अनफिट बन जाओगे. ब्लॉकचेन आए ना आए, AI आए ना आए, अगर आप लेजी कंपनी हो आपको कोई ना कोई फ्री मार्केट इकोनॉमी में खा जाएगा. सो द इंटेंट एंड द गोल शुडंट बी टू से कब आइस जाएगा, कब EV आएगी. द इंटेंट शुड बी टू से व्हेन आई रीड, फॉर एग्जांपल, व्हेन आई रीड Maruti's annual report, do I see a company buzzing with innovation, with an attempt at disruption, with a heavy focus on R&D? If I don't see that, then it suggests that corporate culture में problem है, lethargy है. So our analysts work, right? Our analysts work beyond understanding the integrity of the financial statements, कि company clean है या नहीं, beyond understanding return on capital क्या है, cost of capital क्या है. The qualitative layer of work is around using the annual report to build a picture of company में क्या हो रहा है, rather than जो इंस्टिंक्टिव हवाबाजी है. 4 में AI पे YouTube के वेबिनार वॉच करता हूँ और फिर मैं बकाने लगता हूँ कि AI का क्या असर रहेगा कंपनी के ऊपर.
All right. Wonderful. So, sir, towards the end, we'll just create a to-do list for investors. So, if you can put out some bullets encapsulating the chat, कि अगर आपको 4-5 bullets की एक list देनी हो, so what would you say as the closing remarks?
So, Salil, why don't you go for the first 2 items? I'll come up with the next 3 items. To-do list.
To-do list first is stop looking at the stock prices minute by minute, hour by hour, actually even day by day. Right? Forget कि market ऊपर गया, नीचे गया. That psychologically, I think you have to train yourself to get away from that. And second is inculcate a discipline of investing regularly. How to invest, we already discussed, but what you need to do is disciplined investment. So invest regularly, and more importantly, invest for the long term, because a business needs time to grow, to make money. Right? You give that business that time. You stay invested for that much time. And these are the 2 ways in which you can make money. Sort of the next 3 points for you.
Right. So tip number 3, train yourself to read annual reports. Annual reports free में मिलते हैं. Free में मिलते हैं annual report. And if you can do, say, basic financial analysis, brilliant. If you can't do it, CFA level 1 कर लीजिए. On the online courses, एक basic financial statement analysis का course कर लीजिए. अगर आपको उतना भी नहीं करना, in I think page 110 of Diamonds in the Dust, हमने एक shortcut way of reading the annual report दिया है, वो आप कर लीजिए. Learn how to read annual reports. Honestly, if you can't read annual reports at a basic level, आप खुद का पैसा खुद invest मत कीजिए. So that's the third layer की checklist में, learn how to read annual reports. Fourthly, right? Learn to take your mind away from news in the total sense of the word. News, not just stock market की खबर, but even news in the sense day to day में क्या गर्म हवा चल रही है, यूक्रेन पे रशिया का प्रहार कब आया, यूपी इलेक्शन का नतीजा क्या होगा, आरबीआई कब रेट हाइक करेगी. The less you focus on day to day news, and the more you focus on developing your mind, the more your ability to think about difficult subjects will increase, right? So day to day news, आपके ऐप के अंदर फीड, आपकी इस मॉर्निंग अखबार is like the junk food of the mind. It perishes very quickly और आपको माइंड को सड़ा देता है, right? जितना आप खींचोगे दिमाग को on reading about difficult subjects, complex subjects, वो साइकोलॉजी का हो, टेक्नोलॉजी का हो, हिस्ट्री का हो, इकोनॉमी का हो, जितना आप दिमाग को push करोगे to understand complexity, the more your mind will be able to see patterns that others can't, right? See patterns in the current day, not in the Bhavashyavani, right? So, and the last item, pull yourself away as much as possible from social media. Right? If you really want to build a career as an investor, you want to become a good investor, आप social media को हटा दीजिए अपने phone से. You can do it on the laptop. लेकिन फोन के अंदर सोशल मीडिया is an incredible tax on your brain. You're basically handing over your brain to the tech giants who have created this incredibly addictive means to sap your brains out and monetize it by capturing your attention. तो सोशल मीडिया को इंस्टॉल कीजिए. मेरी किताब है विक्ट्री प्रोजेक्ट, जहां पे मैं और मेरे दोस्त अनुपम गुप्ता ने समझाने की कोशिश की है कि सोशल मीडिया आपका दिमाग कितना चूस डालता है,
इन्फ्लुएंस करता है. डेफिनेटली सर, मैं एक आइटम और ऐड कर देता हूँ अपनी तरफ से, राइट, दैट इन ऑर्डर टू मेक मनी फ्रॉम द स्टॉक मार्केट, प्लीज डोंट डिपेंड ऑन द स्टॉक मार्केट. मेरे पास बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स के मैसेजेस आते हैं कि हम डे ट्रेडिंग शुरू कर दें, शुड वी ड्रॉप आउट ऑफ कॉलेज एंड स्टार्ट बिकमिंग लाइक डे ट्रेडर्स. सो दिस मैसेज इज स्पेशली फॉर देम, राइट, एंड आई विल आल्सो लेट Saurabh and Salil have the final word on this, right? And this is a very, very important message, because right now people are seeing that people are making so much money by investing in stocks, cryptos, whatnot, and they want to become like full-time traders, full-time investors. So what's your message to them?
Salil is well placed to comment on this.
So I follow simple principle. कोई मुझे बोलता है कि people generally tell you मैंने ये स्टॉक में बहुत पैसा बनाया, right? Nobody says कि तुमने टोटल कितना पैसा बनाया.
Right.
So then, so the simple question to ask is तुमने और कौन से स्टॉक में कितना पैसा घुमाया वो भी बताओ. Right? Show me your portfolio, right? Don't tell me a success story of a single stock. And invariably you will find that overall basis पे ज्यादा पैसा नहीं बनता है. In fact, Zerodha's founder, right, about a week, 10 days ago, he made a statement, right, and he's probably the best place to give this information. On his platform, 99%, right, 99% of people don't make more than FD returns, right, and Zerodha has a lot of these so-called people who want to do day trading, new entrants to the market. right? If only 1% is making any reasonable amount of money, you know it's a loser's game. You focus on investing, right? Which is not day trading, long-term investing, and you'll make money. You'll definitely make. So ask the person telling you, don't feel jealous. Ask him to show his portfolio. You'll be very, very happy when you see those numbers.
Wonderful message. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Salil, appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Akshat. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.